Good day, and welcome to the Keys to Empowered Leadership with Mark Bowser. Mark is the president and CEO of Empowering Enterprises Incorporated and the successful author of 2 books. It is my honor to introduce to you Mark Bowser.
The year was 1815. The date was March 1st. On that day in history, a small ship sailed very quietly to dock in the French Riviera. A man stepped off that ship with a fire in his eyes. The tyrant was back. Napoleon had returned. At that time in his life, Napoleon had been exiled to an island called Elba, which is just off the coast of Italy, and he didn't want to live. And so he carried around his neck a pouch which contained a poison called nightshade. He poured the poison into his body, hoping that it would kill him. But all he had was severe cramps and convulsions, and then he recovered. Now, shortly after his recovery, he escaped from his British captors and he stole one of their ships. He had just stepped off his stolen ship to take out his revenge on all of Europe. You see, in his warped little way, Napoleon believed that he should be in charge. He wanted control of all of Europe. And he thought this was the perfect time to strike, because the Allies in Europe at that time had had so many petty differences they could not agree on. And so Napoleon was going to strike them when there was no unity. But sure enough, as soon as he stepped off his stolen ship and onto the continent, all those petty differences didn't seem so important now, and they united against Napoleon. One of the men they looked to defend them was the Duke of Wellington. He was a British hero. He was brave. He was courageous. And if anyone could help stop Napoleon, it had to be the Duke of Wellington. Well, the Duke understood that a line would have to be drawn in the sand, and a battle would eventually be fought. Well, before his battle, he was in Brussels preparing for it. And he and a member of the British Parliament by the name of Thomas Creevey were walking in Brussels Park. And as they were walking along, they noticed something. There was a young man just gawking at a statue. The young man was a foot soldier, an infantryman, a redcoat. Now, could this young man, almost a boy, could he make any difference at all in this global conflict that was now consuming them? Well, all of a sudden, Wellington grabbed Creevey by the arm and he pointed at the young man. And he said, There! Look at him! Look at him! It all depends on that article, whether we do business or not. You give me enough of them, and I'm sure of victory. Well, on June 18, 1815, that line was drawn in the sand, and the Battle of Waterloo was fought. It became known as one of the greatest military victories in all of history. Wellington had with him over 67,000 men and 150 artillery guns. Napoleon had with him over 246 guns and over 71,000 men. The battle began at 11:25 in the morning, went all day long and into the evening, wouldn't end until 10 o'clock that night. Because of heavy rains the night before, Napoleon continued to delay his attack. In hindsight, that delay cost him not only this particular battle, but the rest of his career. But at 11:25 that fateful morning, Napoleon pummeled the front of Wellington's line. Now, Wellington's men were fighting hard, but they were being shoved back. And finally, all hope for victory fell on the British infantry. The young men, the boys, the redcoats, it all fell on their shoulders. Well, they believed in their leader, Wellington. They believed in themselves, and they even began to believe that they could do it, and they pushed back. And they pushed back so hard and so firm that they held their ground until reinforcements arrived. And then that united front is what pushed Napoleon off the battlefield, licking his wounds. And Europe was safe again. Now, you may be sitting there listening to this recording thinking, Mark, that's a pretty interesting story, but what does it have to do with me? And what does it have to do with my leadership? And my answer to that is simply everything. You see, there are 4 fundamental principles, 4 pillars, if you will, that we're going to take out of the Battle of Waterloo. And I encourage you, as you listen to this recording and you contemplate what we're going and where we're going, that you think about these 4 pillars and you keep them in mind and how they relate to your life. And so let's go through the 4 pillars. Pillar number 1. Credibility. Credibility. You see, Wellington was a leader with credibility. People believed in him. In his case, people thought that if anybody could keep him alive, it was Wellington. We have to be credible leaders. And so think right now, are you credible to the eyes of your team? The second pillar was vision. Now, vision has become a very popular thing in corporate America. We do the vision thing, if you will. But if you see, there was a difference with the Battle of Waterloo. Wellington not only had a vision that people understood because he communicated it to them, he had a vision that they gravitated towards. They gravitated towards that vision, and we have to do the same thing. Pillar number 3 is coaching. Wellington was a coach. He got these young guys to do something most people thought was impossible. And so we have to be a coach too. We have to move our team and give them the skills to reach the dream. And number 4, unity. Unity. There was no success at the Battle of Waterloo until the reinforcements arrived. And quite frankly, there would have been no success unless the reinforcements arrived. You see, we are stronger together than any of us are individually. And so we have to get our team unified towards the vision and towards each other. And so keep these 4 pillars in mind: credibility, vision, coaching, and unity. Now, before we get hot and heavy into our topic, the keys to empowered leadership, I encourage you to jot down a couple questions that I want you to think about and to contemplate. Everything that we do from here on in runs through the filter of these 2 questions for you. And so question number 1 is, what are you hoping to gain from this recording today? In other words, what is your goal? 6 months from today, how are you going to be different as a result of listening to this recording today in terms of your leadership skills? What is your goal? And my second question for you is simply this: what are you willing to give up? Or what are you willing to sacrifice to reach that goal? Every worthy endeavor takes sacrifice. Some sacrifice that you're going to have to give in order to get that goal. And so keep those things in mind. What is your goal? And what are you going to give to get that goal? All right, now let's jump into the keys to empowered leadership. Key number 1 to the keys to empowered leadership is, what is leadership? Effective leadership is the most vital element to any organization. With it, you can reach the stars. Without it, and the murkiest swamp will be your home. As John Maxwell says, everything rises and falls on leadership. So what is effective leadership, and how do we become that kind of leader? Well, I believe one of the best definitions I have ever heard comes from the author J. Oswald Sanders, and he defined leadership with one word: influence. Nothing more, nothing less. And the truth of the matter is we all influence people every single day. It may be as simple as influencing your coworkers on where to go to eat lunch, or as vital as influencing your teenage daughter not to get on drugs. And so the first thing I think we need to understand is that there is a difference between an influential leader and a positional leader. The positional leader has the title: I am the president, I am the director, I am the king of the world. Well, that is great, but that doesn't in and of itself make you influential. The influential leader may be the peasant of the kingdom or the entry-level employee. Influence is about inspiring and moving people into action in order to reach a desired goal. Now, I hope you have the position, but I also hope you have the trust, respect, and heart of your people. Whatever your position is at this time, I want to help you develop into the influential person that you were born to be. Before we can go any further, I believe it is important that we dig a little deeper into the explanations and actions of leadership. Let me ask you a question. Is there a difference between a leader and a manager? There is, isn't there? Okay, what does a leader do? What is the first action that they take? Right, they create a vision. They may not create a vision for the entire organization, but they definitely do for their part of it. All right, what does a manager do? That's right, they make it happen. They implement the vision. The leader creates where we are going, and the manager makes the vision happen. They break it into manageable parts and assign the task to the right people. Okay, let me throw another concept out there. How about a coach? What does a coach do? A coach motivates, inspires, teaches, provides resources, disciplines when necessary. So which are we? A leader, a manager, or a coach? Well, we're all three. I don't think we can separate it anymore. We have to be all three. We are the leader/manager/coach. Now, that makes our task a little bit more daunting, but it will make us much more effective and successful in the long run. For sake of ease, I'm going to use the term leader and leadership, but when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about all three rolled into one. Now, before we can get into the nuts and bolts of leadership, let's pause for a moment and talk about three fundamental facts of leadership. Understanding these three facts will help us jumpstart our development in becoming more influential individuals. The three facts are: 1, one person can make a difference; 2, start leading today; and 3, the office doesn't make the person. So let's start back up with fact number 1. One person can make a difference. Now, this is probably not a new saying to you, but what pictures came to your mind when you heard that statement? If you're like most people, many of you thought about Billy Graham or Martin Luther King Jr. or Mother Teresa, Gandhi, or many, many others. However, do you see someone missing from that list? I do. That someone is you. Mother Teresa didn't go out to become a saint. She went out to save one dying person. She was walking down the street and saw a person dying in a gutter. She said to herself, "That is not right. Everyone should die with dignity." And the rest, they say, is history. You see, great leaders, great physicians, sales champions, and consultants figure out how their influence can touch a life. And by doing that, their influence may touch hundreds, thousands, and maybe even millions of lives. So, the question is, where can your leadership grow to make a bigger difference than you are today? You're probably making a difference. But how can your leadership grow? You make a difference, and people need you. Fact number 2, start leading today. Many times young leaders, for example, will say, I'm not ready to lead. I will wait till I read that leadership book or go to that seminar or learn that skill. Now, those are all important things, and I encourage them. But the truth of the matter is that your organization and your team can't wait. You need to start leading today and learn as you lead. None of us will ever know all there is to leadership. It is a continual growing process. We can't wait till we know all there is to leadership, or we will do absolutely nothing. We must become influential today and grow throughout our leadership journey. Fact number 3, the office doesn't make the person. Leadership is not about the corner office. Have you ever worked for somebody who thought it was? They were more concerned with their promotion, their prestige, and their accolades. In the process, they lost their team and many times their customers as a result. Now, please don't misunderstand me. I have no problem with comfortable offices and a comfortable work environment. In fact, I am actually for it. But we must not put the cart before the horse. Today, my family's company, the Bright Corporation, has a comfortable work environment and the executives have nice offices. But it wasn't always that way. My dad and my uncle made sure the horse came before the cart, and now the company has the resources to support that type of environment. They were more concerned with helping their team succeed and serving their customers than they were about having a cushy sofa and a picture window in their office. As a result of this wise decision, they don't have a revolving door for their team, or worse yet, for their customers. Their team has tremendous loyalty. They have team members that have worked for the Bright Corporation for over 20 years. They have customers that also go that far back. How rare is that? Very. Focus on your team and focus on your customers, and the rest will take care of itself. Our next key to empowered leadership is something I call the leadership success triangle. Now, what is it that makes some leaders more successful than others? Well, it has to do with this success triangle. Now, it's not original with me. In fact, I am not positive who came up with this concept. It is one of those that keeps getting passed down. Why? Because it works. So, how does a triangle help us to be more influential? Well, take a look at a triangle. At the very top is where you find vision. Vision. Vision is at the top point. At the bottom points, you have integrity and you have compassion. So let me explain how this works. At the top of the triangle, we have vision. Now, vision is vital. Vision is critical to your team's success. King Solomon said, where there is no vision, the people perish. In other words, where there is no vision, your team will fail. Where there is no vision, your team walks around in chaos. And so, where is your team headed? What is your vision statement or your purpose statement? Big questions, but very important ones to have answers to. Another key to vision is to have a challenging vision. I think that many times we sell ourselves short. Our vision is to walk around the block versus walk around the world. We need a challenging vision not only to challenge ourselves, but one which will infuse passion and enthusiasm into ourselves as well as our team. A challenging vision doesn't mean we know how to reach it today. A challenging vision is one we believe is worth it and possible. A leader I think about when it comes to having a challenging vision is President John F. Kennedy. In 1961, President Kennedy stood before the world and announced that it was America's goal before the decade was out to land a man on the moon and return him safely to Earth. That's a big vision. That wouldn't be a simple task for NASA today. But think about it. What was going on in 1961 when President Kennedy made that statement? We were getting clobbered by the Soviet Union in terms of the space race. We had rocket after rocket blow up in our faces. Then, in 1961, we managed to have a victory. We launched Alan Shepard into space, and we got him home without killing him. Shortly after that, victory is when President Kennedy stated his goal. Now, if you were one of our scientists in 1961, hearing the president make such a statement, what do you think your reaction would be? We're going where? Are you kidding? Man, we just barely got the guy up there, and now you want to go to the moon? But what happened a few short years later? It was July 20, 1969, when Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin stepped off the Eagle and became the first people to walk on the moon. And of course, we got them home safely. You see, a challenging vision doesn't mean you know how to do it today. It is one that is worth it, possible, and will stretch you and your team. Those are the worthy visions, the ones worth pursuing. In the middle of the triangle is where we find your people, your team. This is where many leaders get messed up. Many leaders feel like it is their job to get their ship, their business, to move, that they are the motor of the ship. Well, we as leaders are not the motor of the ship. Who is the motor? That's right, your team is the motor. What are we? We are that little piece in the back of the ship. We steer, we guide, we're the rudder, we direct toward the vision. Now, the next question is, how do we get our team, the motor, to move toward our vision? Well, that is where the base of the triangle comes in. The base is all about us as leaders. In order to get the team to want to move towards the vision, we need to be leaders of integrity and compassion. Now, let's take a look at each side individually. First, let's look at integrity. Why is this important to get your team to move toward your vision? Not only because it is the right thing, but also because it is the effective thing. You see, your team is asking themselves questions like this. Can I trust her? Can I trust him? Can I trust my leader? Think just for a moment about a leader you don't trust. Do you care where they are going? Do you want to go there with them? I doubt it. If we haven't earned their trust, then they most likely won't jump on the bandwagon of where we want to take the team. This is where I believe we can learn from President Kennedy's faults as well as his successes. President Kennedy was a very visionary leader, but he wasn't a very integrity-oriented leader. It is my belief that if we knew then what we know now about President Kennedy's lack of integrity, that not near as many people would have jumped onto his bandwagon. Why? Because they wouldn't trust him. People will follow a leader they trust even if they don't understand everything. People will rebel against a leader they don't trust. The other side of the base of the triangle talks about compassion. We need to be compassionate leaders. Now, this is sometimes defined more frequently as the servant leader. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever worked for somebody who wasn't compassionate? Who were they concerned about? Themselves. They would say or believe concepts such as, your job is to make me look good. Your job is to help me get my promotion. Well, do you trust that kind of leader? Do you care where they are going? I doubt it. A compassionate leader looks at it differently. They look at it this way. How can I help this person succeed? How can I help my team win? How can I get them all the resources they need to do their jobs more effectively? You see, it is a paradox. When we help them, they help us. My colleague Zig Ziglar says, you can have everything in life you want if you will just help enough other people get what they want. And when they know that we have their best interests in mind and they trust us, guess what happens? They run towards our vision. Why? Because they want to reach it as bad as we do. This is why some leaders are more effective than others. They understand the entire package that motivates. They live by the leadership success triangle, and they and their teams are champions. So grab hold and take action on this concept, and before you know it, your ship will be steaming towards your vision of a brighter tomorrow. Another key element to empowered leadership is a leader perseveres with the power to stand. It was Abraham Lincoln who said, "To sin by silence when they should protest makes cowards out of men." As leaders, as champions, we need to be people who have the courage to stand up for what we know to be right. This is not always an easy thing to do. Criticism is usually the result of this action. Sometimes we might have to lay down our lives for our beliefs. Then why take this action of voicing our beliefs? Because it is worth it. Integrity can be defined as wholeness to ourselves, wholeness to our values, wholeness to our beliefs, wholeness to the truth. The world will only change for the better when champions, leaders like you and I, are willing to face the heat of negative attacks and stand up for what we know to be right. Some years ago, I was a member of the council at my church. One evening, a very sticky issue came before the church. Some people wanted to sit on the fence and not deal with it. Others wanted to brush it under the carpet and act like it never came up. I just so happened to be the first person to speak up against the issue. I said something like this: "We need to call this what it is, and we need to deal with it." The sticky issue that came before us that evening was one about homosexuality and Christianity. There were some of the church who had requested that a homosexual forum be held at the church, supporting the belief that it was okay to be a practicing homosexual and a Christian at the same time. These people actually believed that homosexuality was not a sin. Now, this got to my stomach. I had to say something. I had to make my stand. That is when I spoke up. Now, I was amazed that people who I thought would be on the same biblical standing as I began to attack me. My belief is that homosexuality is a sin. I believe that we need to love the sinner, but hate the sin. I believe we need to help people overcome and get rid of their sin with the love and truth of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Now, that is my belief. What is your belief? Have you stood up for it? I was also amazed that something that is discussed behind closed doors doesn't always stay there. Have you ever noticed that? The information leaks out. In this case, it leaked to the congregation. I was, however, comforted to receive a letter or two, letters that had a message of, "Thanks, Mark. We heard about what you said at the council meeting. Thanks for being there. Thanks for standing firm." I appreciated those letters. They also taught me a valuable lesson. Even if you have 10 people attacking you verbally, doesn't mean you don't have 100 people standing quietly behind you whispering, "Way to go. We're with you." Now, don't misunderstand me. I am not saying it is fun when you are getting pummeled. It was not fun that evening. But in the midst of the pummeling, I remember a strange peace inside, a peace that said, if people are getting this upset, then I must be doing something right. And that is true. People who stay in the crowd don't make waves. People who don't speak up don't stir up the pot. But the stew doesn't get stirred and differences aren't made. Colin Powell expressed that leaders make enemies. He is right. We can't please everyone. Now, I will have to admit, this experience taught me another lesson as well. You see, for a moment, I weakened. I softened my stance. The next day, I strengthened my stance again and publicly made it known. Don't let a momentary weakness keep you from doing the right thing. We must get back up and harness the power to stand. Since the birth of freedom, champions have been willing to face the consequences and fight for what they believed in, even if it cost them their lives. So let's take a look back through our history and the leaders that brought us to where we are today. On December 16, 1773, 40 to 50 colonists dressed like Indians boarded 3 British ships docked in Boston Harbor. The men broke open 340 chests of tea and threw the tea into the water. This action helped lead to the War for Independence in America. Why were these champions willing to risk so much? Was the risk worth it for these leaders? Well, many colonists did not want to pay taxes to the British government. Tea was such a tax. In 1773, the British government authorized the British East India Company to ship tea to America at a substantial tax rebate. This would give certain individuals in America a monopoly on the sale of tea. The colonists feared more British government involvement, and they planned their successful raid on the tea known as the Boston Tea Party. Now, the Boston Tea Party led to more colonists standing up for what they believed in. On April 19, 1775, these champion leaders had taken all they were going to take. They made their stand at Lexington, Massachusetts, where they fought the British Redcoats. Not too many hours later, in the town of Concord, Massachusetts, more brave colonists fired the shot heard round the world when they fought the British. This was the beginning of an 8-year stand for freedom known as the American War for Independence. On July 4, 1776, the Second Continental Congress adopted the Declaration of Independence, which officially destroyed any authority the British government had over the colonies. Thomas Jefferson penned courageous words such as these: "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." These immortal words represent a wake-up call to all leaders of all generations to take the risk and stand up for what we know to be right. In more recent times, champions have also risked all for their beliefs. In the 1950s, black people took their stand for the cause of freedom. One such champion was Rosa Parks. Mrs. Parks was riding on a bus and refused to give up her seat to a white passenger. Mrs. Parks was arrested for her actions. But Rosa Parks' stand had many positive results. She set a positive example to the nation for how precious freedom is and how sometimes it must be fought for. A great man who carried on the flame that Rosa Parks lit was Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. He was a Baptist minister who fought for the cause of freedom through equality for black people through peaceful means. Because of his courage in nonviolent demonstrations, he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1964. Dr. King motivated all to greatness with inspirational thoughts of love. One such thought was, when evil men plot, good men must plan. When evil men shout ugly words of hatred, good men must commit themselves to the glories of love. Words like these helped change the focus of this nation to freedom through love. I think Dr. King said it wonderfully with his immortal words, when we let freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of that old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. That's part of our global history. The question now is, what will be our future? Will we answer the call of freedom and stand up for what we know is right, or will we watch it shrivel up and die because of our inaction? That is a question that each of us must answer for ourselves. What about you? I choose to answer the call of freedom. I choose to stand as a champion leader, and I ask you this day to stand with me for the cause of truth. Take a stand. The power to stand is a great strength of the great leaders. Our last key for the keys to empowerment is a great leader is one of integrity. Now, this is a topic we touched on just a moment ago, but let's dig a little deeper in this topic of integrity. Now, what do you think of this question? Should managers and supervisors teach right from wrong? Let me ask you another question. What do you think of Enron, WorldCom, and the other companies that are in deep trouble because of unethical behavior? Should managers and supervisors teach their employees, the future managers and leaders, right from wrong? Yes, yes, yes. If we in our businesses are going to thrive, then we must adopt into our lives and teach into our other people's lives the attitude that character does mean something. It is interesting that this has become a national debate. Now, this is good. Even though it doesn't appear that character wins all the time, trust me, character always wins in the end. For the next few moments, let me guide you on a journey to 3 values we must teach to our teams and then how we can motivate them to live them. The first value we must teach our teams is the value of integrity. There is a motivational speaker who used to go around defining integrity as wholeness. Now, in his view, as long as we are whole or congruent to our values, then we have integrity. Well, he is half right. What if we have the values that it is all right to murder people? If we are whole and congruent, then according to his definition, we have integrity. That is why a half-truth can mess up your life. You see, he is right that integrity is wholeness, but the dictionary doesn't stop there. It tells us exactly what to be whole to. It talks about truthfulness and honesty, being whole to those values. That is the integrity we must live and teach. The second value we need to impart to our teams is that of leadership. Yes, true leadership is a value. So what is leadership? Well, remember our definition of J. Oswald Sanders? It's influence. Leaders are able to influence people to take action. I believe true leadership is morality influence. We need to motivate people to put morality and ethical goals into action. The third value we need to express is that results at any cost are dangerous and wrong. Not following this rule is what has gotten companies in such deep water. If we want to have true success, then we must be results-minded, but with ethics leading the way. All right, there you are, 3 values. Integrity, leadership, and results at any cost are dangerous and wrong. Now, how do we get our teams to grab hold of them? Well, I believe there are 3 ways to do that. 1, we must live it. We set the tone. We are the example. We are the model. 2, teach it and preach it. We have to be the voice of right. I think it was U.S. President Theodore Roosevelt who spoke of using the bully pulpit. We must use our bully pulpit to positively teach right from wrong. And 3rd, expect it. Don't settle for anything less. Keep your standards high. Expect the best. Well, there you have it. The keys to empowered leadership. Follow these keys and your influence will grow. And when your influence grows, so does your success. Thanks for listening to this recording today. Make it a great day, and God bless you.
We hope you have enjoyed this recording of the Keys to Empowered Leadership with Mark Bowser. To contact Mark for more information on his training seminars and books, please visit us on our website at www.markbowser.com.